Let me tell you a fun fact. Within the last 2 centuries, more than 90% of the world's millionaires have been created by investing in real estate. But if done incorrectly, without the right knowledge, required skills, or partners, it can also create a ton of problems and a lot of sleepless nights. You feel like sometimes there are way too many gurus out there trying to sell you on a weekend course, or just too much noise to cut right to the facts? Yup, we did too, and this is why we started this podcast. Our goal is to provide real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and enthusiasts with all of the most recent knowledge, secrets, tips, tricks, and tactics so that you can grow your own portfolios, increase your returns, net worth, and most importantly, create generational wealth for you and your loved ones. Remember, this is your real estate career. Information is your sword and shield, so eat hearty, prepare for battle, and grind your way to victory. My name is Tejas Gosai. I'm joined by my partner, Jeremy Moyer, and we welcome you to the Real Estate Investor MBA podcast.
Welcome back to your favorite real estate podcast. It's Real Estate Investor MBA. I'm your host, Tejas Gosai. I'm sorry my co-host, Jeremy Moyer, couldn't be here today. He is flying to Florida, but I promise it's going to be an awesome show. Today's guest, Pili Yarusi. I hope I'm saying that right. Very cool dude. Brilliant man. Him and his wife, what they've done in the past few years is just tremendous. So can't wait to get into the show. And I'll give you his bio in just a second. Please check out our website. We have worked our tails off to make our website better than other people's website. We have a section called Market Intelligence that we just instituted. Our team is scouring articles all over the country and putting them on our website for you guys to check out. So I hope you like them, as well as an inventory section. So we have a national inventory. You can sign up on our platform, get that stuff sent right to your email with your criteria, and then off-market inventory. I'm talking quickly because we got a good guest coming up. But the last thing I'm going to tell you about on the website, rei.mba, is our real estate roadmap. So we've had over 65, almost 70 interviews now with hard-hitting topics that sometimes are fairly detailed and complicated. But we wanted to get the best set of information together to help seasoned investors as well as brand new investors get on the course. Our tagline is educating investors to create generational wealth for their loved ones, right? I've dedicated my life to this. I've been doing this for quite a bit of time, and it's wonderful to see when people have that life. I've seen that take place. So I want that for you guys, and we made this roadmap. So you can sign up. It's online. It's free. If you're a first-time investor, you want to look at some of the packaging before you go and buy a property and some of the inventory hunting podcast we've had. If you own real estate and you manage your own properties, then you may want to check out the asset management section. We have 5 hours and a bunch of transcripts from podcasts if you don't want to listen on that topic. We have podcasts on fundraising, networking, so that you can get your first deal off the ground with a set of investors, banking, and what the banks are looking for in an investor so that they can take on a deal. It's just important to have your financials together as much as it is to bring on a property that has the right underwriting. You don't have a big company doing your underwriting. You want to make sure you provide that banker with the right information. So just tons of information that we have there. Check it out when you get a chance. All right, our podcast today. Jason is an active real estate syndicator and real estate investor. Jason and his wife are the founding and managing members of Yarusi Holdings, a multifamily investment firm that has acquired over 1,900 units valued at over $180 million since 2016. It's not that long ago if you think about it. The firm repositions properties through operational efficiencies, moderate to extensive renovations, and complete rebranding. Jason also hosts the Multifamily Live podcast, a podcast that provides actionable content and tools to build and strengthen your portfolio. Jason's amazing. What him and his family have done is amazing. How inspirational he is to hear and then to be one of his investors and watch these projects flourish. I wanted to take a minute though before we get into the podcast to explain a couple things from that bio. So the firm repositions properties through operational efficiencies, moderate to extensive renovations, and complete rebranding. So repositioning a property, right? I have a podcast on cap rates where for half an hour I tried to succinctly explain how you can turn a property from X amount of dollars into a higher value by changing rents and changing your cap rate, therefore your value, right? So there's a lot of things to unpack in that. There's so many different ways to add value. Operational efficiencies are super important. One example could be, along with the renovation, let's say you have a 20-unit building that has oil heating. It's an older building. It's beautiful, but the owner is paying for the heat of the property and filling that oil tank. You can cut that process out by pulling in the gas line, or you can install electric baseboard heaters in that 20-unit apartment building. So then you're cutting your cost on the oil and heating the whole property for the tenants, who generally would never control the heat because the owner's paying for it. And what you're doing is offsetting that expense because the tenants are responsible for their own electricity, which will also help keep it in control. So it's a pretty large balance sheet win because you're cutting an expense and you're getting a profit that way. Those are a couple of the ways that can have some value added to it through operational efficiencies and some renovations. So complete rebranding, though, is really neat because people don't think about it. Oh, this company has this brand. Well, so does a 10 or 20 unit building in the neighborhood and a block that it's in. I'm in a tertiary market, the Lehigh Valley. We're not New York City or Philadelphia, but there are some beautiful properties that need repoint, that need a exterior facelift, maybe having different signage for the property, even painting lines in the parking lot gives more curb appeal. There's all these little things that help rebrand the property. And then when you spend that time renovating it and rebranding it, you take the pictures like all good realtors do, and then you throw that property out for rent in the market. And people are like, oh, I remember that building. Ooh, but that's so nice what they've done to the property. It justifies the higher rents, all the money that you just spent on the renovations. So, just wanted to touch on some of these points and encourage you to check out our website, rei.mba, and let's get into the interview. Jason's awesome. You can get a hold of him anytime. We share his information at the end. Cheers. All right, guys, we're here with Jason. Jason, thanks for being here.
I'm psyched to be here.
Yeah, for sure. So I just gave a little bit of an intro. You guys have been super successful. It's fun to have somebody who is totally active in the market when it's kind of a bizarre market. And before we get cooking, Lehigh University.
That's right. So I went to Lehigh University. It was a great time. I have a lot of great friends still from being there at school. So yeah, funny enough, small world. You're out there in Lehigh. So
Yep. I'm right next door and our market is going bananas, which I talk about all the time on the podcast and social media. Wait, you own some stuff out here, right?
We do. We have one property in Eastern PA in Emmaus. It's a 48-unit property there. So that's the last one we have up in the Northeast. Predominantly all the rest of our properties are down here in the Sunbelt in the Southeast here.
You hail from Texas or Tennessee?
Tennessee now. Yeah. So I was born and raised in New Jersey, lived in New York City with my wife. We were there for about 13 years. And then before moving back to New Jersey and then eventually down to Tennessee, we're right south of Nashville in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Bravo. Well, let's get into it. You are very busy. Can you brag a little bit about yourself, share some of your story, just give us a framework of what kind of guy you are?
Sure. I'll give you a good frame is that if I was talking to someone the other day and, lo and behold, after Lehigh, I came out of Lehigh with a finance degree and did every avenue except finance, right? So I went into every part, opened restaurants, opened and sold a brewery, worked in a lot of bars. And that was where my wife, Pili, and I met. So about 12 years ago, we were bartenders, right? And we were running bars, bar managers, bartenders. And we made a lot of choices in our life to just change our direction. We started having Pili was pregnant with our first of now 3 kids. And we just knew we wanted to take a different route for our life. We just were working in a transactional environment where we had to constantly be doing to get, and we didn't control our day. We didn't control our outcome. We didn't control where we wanted to go. So we transitioned into real estate, which we thought was going to be the path, flipping, wholesaling. We found we're just creating a lot more activity in our day and our lives, and came upon multifamily. And that was that light bulb moment where we knew that we could use what our business savvy, our management experience to be able to grow businesses and do what we've done before and do that with large apartment buildings. And that was that aha moment back in about 2016. So we jumped out of the gate. We brought a 94 unit in 2017. That was the first transaction we did. And then since then, we've done coming up around about 2,000 units, give or take, pretty much between Louisville, Nashville, and Atlanta have been our predominant markets in the last 5.5 years now.
So pull back for a second. That's 2016 to now.
Correct.
Couple thousand units.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, let's unpack some of this. So the first one you bought was almost 100 unit property.
That's right. We're lucky enough to just see early on. We started out of the gate when we were doing our flipping and wholesaling. Pili met basically someone who was buying like single families out of state as rentals. We saw that model. We started buying some like duplexes and triplexes about 1,000 miles away. And that worked well, but we realized very quickly it was going to be just a bottleneck, right? At that point, we wanted to get to what we wanted to. Having, 50 duplexes around town was not going to be conducive to us to really get our goals. We're just going to create more chaos. So we saw someone, and just on a show like this, who was buying large apartment buildings. And that made sense to us over and not. We had 12-seat restaurants. We had 100-seat restaurants. And dinner is still 2 hours long, right? And so for a 12-seat restaurant to turn to 100, we just saw that the economical avenue with the larger apartment building gave you all the ability to do more under one roof and be able to do it in a way that was going to be effective and be able to diversify across that building, because instead of having just one or two tenants pay your mortgage, 100 tenants. In terms of, doing things that could drive income or drive expenses, you could do little things that could really create a lot of value across a building that wouldn't really replicate across a smaller property. So we dove all in. We surrounded ourselves with other like-minded people that were doing this, and we just were learning from what they were doing. And it made sense that New Jersey is where we were living, that wasn't going to be a market that was good for us. It was an expensive market, older assets, high taxes, higher utilities, tougher and just weather conditions, and not landlord friendly. So we started looking at other markets, with the first one being Louisville, Kentucky. Dove all into that market, went really into it, just really strong, just trying to learn where we wanted to be. And we got really honed in with what we wanted. We said, okay, the goal here is not just to buy multifamily, it's to buy something that's going to work for our model. So we got really conditioned that we wanted a 50 to 100 unit building, BC asset, built between 1970 to 2000 in the south of Louisville. And that was a good area because it was workforce housing, wasn't a lot of really new construction coming online, really fit the model we were looking for, but it also helped us tell the story to brokers, property managers, to make sure we could find that other team around us so they could assist us to that goal as well.
What year was that?
That was 2016 leading into 2017.
That's fantastic. So keep going. So that's the market that you landed in, took it by force, burned the boats, went all in.
Yeah, our first 4 acquisitions were all there before we moved into another market. And so we really got honed in, right? So we knew it well, and what it gave us the advantage is that we started talking to our investors before finding the deal, because we went out to our investors who knew us from, work and construction, doing flips, doing our restaurant world, doing our brewery world. And now here we are. We've constantly shown up and committed to what we were doing, but now here we are in this new space buying apartment buildings, right? And so to explain that to someone who doesn't know that this is an avenue for them to invest in and just didn't understand the space, that's a lot for someone to unpack if it's a conversation when I'm raising capital. So we had a great recommendation: go out to our investors early on with a mock deal and talk to them about what we're going to do. Just like I told you that we're going to be looking for 50 to 100 units, BC assets, we went to them and said, hey, listen, we're going to be doing this and we're going to be using syndication. The reason we're going to be doing this is because we can pool resources, your money and our money, to buy these larger properties so we can benefit from the economies of scale. And so it really carried over to give us the confidence that we had investors who would be on board with us today if we did find that deal. So safely, we got, say, $1 million of commitments of not money they were giving us at the time, but people who were interested. So when we found that 94 unit, we had to raise $700,000 or $800,000. And we basically went back and were able to raise that money in a day because we had done all the pre-work, right? And so doing that model was very effective. We got very positioned. We were able to know very quickly, okay, if a building there was an owner paid utility property, it would cost $4,200 or $4,300 per unit to operate. If it was a tenant paid utility property, about $3,700 to $3,900, right? So we were very apt to know what it would cost which allowed us to really dissect the properties very quickly and act very quickly.
By the way, this stuff is awesome. I just want to take a pause to tell you, wonderful. In your bio, operational changes, managerial issues, asset management, all of that fun stuff. You've made some crazy changes. So there's a lot of people that don't understand, as a first-time listener or somebody who's newer, how big are those changes and how did you do it? Can you share some of the bottom line numbers that you raised over time? You guys are the best. Can you share some of that?
Yeah, I mean, we've raised tens of millions of dollars at this point. Probably, we did about $10 million in the last 2 months. I'd have to track where that number come in. We're probably getting up to that, close to that $45, $50 million raised in capital. But from the property themselves, it can be simple to the point that if you find a building, you can look at all the neighboring buildings and see what they're doing. And if this building isn't going to do it, then you know right away that you can do those changes, right? So if they're not charging proper application fees, if every other building accepts pets and they're not doing pets, if other buildings have covered parking or trash valet or all these little things that you can add in there to create value, that's an easy change. But when you can look at buildings and see where else can I capitalize on value, right? Say that you have a large laundry room, right? And this huge laundry room, it's way too big for anything that would be on that part. But then the owner is using a unit as the leasing office. Well, that unit, say it's renting at $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year of lost revenue for the guy to basically be there just to have checks come in. So we would take a laundry room and cut it in half, put the leasing room in there, right? So no one needed that big of a laundry room, and then connect and create maintenance shed on that part. So it creates a better avenue. So people are walking to a unit to come here and now come to the leasing office, and we can put that unit back online to get that revenue driver. We would also look at ways to create other ways to just cut down on expenses, because there's two ways. The income, of course, is going to affect the tenant, right? So we want to see a driver, make sure it fits, make sure it matches. So if every other owner is charging back electric to tenants or charging some kind of bill back for water, then you should be able to do that, right? But on the other side, if they're not, and it's an owner paid property, is there ways that you can make the building be more economical? And certain things like that, we would do water savings programs, go in there, replace all the toilets, change out faucets, change out shower heads to add aerators. And that can cut down on your water bill substantially. And we've done that in pair with also repairing leaks in buildings where our first building, we did that. And I think our water bill cut down something dramatically, like 30%. And we were in the value we created by how much additional income from the bottom line based on the cap. It was something like a $350,000 improvement to the building value, just on changing toilets. And so you think about that when you think about a flip, right? Have you ever changed a toilet and someone's like, oh, this building's worth $10,000 more? That's why you love commercial buildings, because you can do things to make the building more effective, whether it be on the income side or the expense side. And that drives the value. It's not, what color the paint is. It's not these other points that were flips or for someone buying a house that might be important to them. It's how can you make this building have a better revenue stream? And when you can do that and improve the landscape for the tenants, it's a win-win. So we look at these buildings and make them a better place for people to live. It's ultimately a win-win, because now the tenant understands we're here trying to make this building better, but we're also coming to the line to meet the market. So our experience will hopefully be better than our competitors. And even if our number line, and we'll say our market rate that we're charging them is apples for apples, they'll choose that they want to stay and pay the increase or have more people come in, because it will be a better experience compared to the other building that may just be pushing our rents up and haven't created a good place for them to live.
I love it. You're talking about the intangible benefits that people don't consider, or I guess you've done this so much over time now, quote unquote, short period of time, but not really, because you've done so many transactions, dealt with thousands of issues and phone calls and all that. It is tough for somebody who's looking at a 4-unit or 6-unit to think about those things. You have the scale and the size to pull that off. So what do you say to somebody who looks up to you and is like, hey, I want to get into this? How the heck do I get into something like this? You mentioned some of the mastermind groups and things like that. But
sure.
Can you share some of it?
Well, the first part is the easy question is like, what are you looking to get from this? Is it an income driver? You're looking to build out a different business, or what is the goal that you're looking to seek with that? And then the easy part is just like this, a show like this, you can come and get great information from you about what you're doing, learn more of the process. So you can start to put yourself around other like-minded people, right? Start going to meetups, start understanding what other people are doing, because whether it's a 4-unit, 8-unit, 100-unit, 200-unit, there's a similar process, but you have to understand where your mind is at. Right? There's people who will think they need to start with a 10-unit because that's what they need to do. And maybe that's perfect for them. But the need of doing a 10-unit to do a 100-unit is not something of a stepping stone, right? You don't need to learn to swim to go learn, be able to ride a bike, right? It's a point that if you want to go to bigger multifamily, there's a lot of advantages to it. And you have to understand the various parts. So for large apartment buildings, it could be you, right? Or it could be a lot of people who are doing the operation side of this property, right? You could be your own lead generation. You could be the due diligence. You could be the underwriting. You could be the capital raiser, the investor relations, asset management, right? The sponsor for the loan, right? You can be all those parts. And we have early on, it serves one purpose of the puzzle. However, as you continue to expand, you realize there are bigger projects. And for you to continue to do that, you need to provide and bring on resources, whether it's other partners or team members aside you, so you can create the best experience for your investors and for the people that live there, right? Because if I'm raising capital, I'm not working on the due diligence. If I'm doing the due diligence, I'm not underwriting the property, right? So there's a bottleneck can come up as I do this. So the easiest question for you to ask out of the gate is that, okay, this is something that really attracts you. Amazing. What is something you can do? I heard a person label it really well, is that we could all offer time, money, knowledge, or credit, right? So credit could be your sponsor, knowledge, you know how to underwrite, money, you have money to invest, or time, you can go out there and run around, meet people, do the time, do the digging, you'll find the deals, right? Where can you fit in that mold? And which is your driver? What you like to do? If you have the time, right? You don't have a lot of money, but you have time. Great. Get on the phone, start talking to people, start connecting with other people who have money, and go out there and find deals so you can start bringing value, because we can all fit in one of those pillars to be able to provide value to a team, whether it be you, two of you, three of you, or five of you.
I love it. Let's go to the other side of this. So one thing that I can tell is you have a lot of is trust. People trust you now that you've proven yourself for so many repeated times. I think it's important to tell like everything that you just said, but this is a business of trust. And like, if you just can't screw up, but you also like people need to like you. They need to know that the money's going to go in the right place. You work with accredited investors, right?
We do. Yeah.
Can you talk about and how and why some people trust you and you call if you're like, hey, give me X amount of dollars. They're like, yes, I'm in.
The simplest thing in anything in life is that show up. And if you're going to say, I'm going to do this, do what you say. And if for some reason you can't do what you're going to say you're going to do, don't hide. Go and say, hey, listen, this is not work to plan. Here's what we're doing to correct the plan. And if you can carry that avenue forward in any course of business, you'll be successful, because the communication is key. Today's the 15th. Every investor on every property is going to get an update today. 15th of every month, all the property updates go out like clockwork. So they know, and it goes out every month. And what's important for that is that investors get to a point that they don't have to worry because of a lack of communication, right? Because everything can be going crystal clear and magical, but if you're not responding or giving any info to investors, or you're not putting anything out in front of them, they don't know. So they might be worried that something's going wrong, right? So the more you can continue to communicate, keep them in know. Remember, they've worked hard for this money. That's the least you can do, is just continue to communicate with them, to give them approach. We set the parameters very early. Of course, email goes out. This is when, of course, distributions go out. This is when you'll get from us communications every month. This is when you will see financials. This is when tax returns, K1s will come out. So they're very clear on what's going to come up. And then they're welcome to, throughout, call us, email us, text us with any questions they have. We find if we keep that level of communication constant, it limits their questions, because we're giving them basically the answers to any questions they may have.
Yeah, that was a great explanation. And then another part of it too is this isn't the crystal ball stuff, right? Like you're still making moves. Just temperature out there as people are scared, interest rates, obviously, all this other stuff. How do you tell your investors that everything's okay? We're finding the right deals. Do you get phone calls like that?
Well, there's always going to be the question, right? Because if you watch the news can make anything scary at any time, right? We were investing all through COVID, right? So we were doing other parts of the project to go for here. But you have to understand your model to make sure that you can limit your downside exposure, right? And so if you get to a point here where you're taking on a very risky project right now that has a loan that's going to put you in an element where you have something work perfect to plan, and then be able to exit out of that loan with some other perceived loan a year from now, that's probably going to be a tough play for you, right? Because hopefully it will work out, but you're setting up so many hurdles for you to have to hit to get there. So we're looking for projects right now where we can have and control multiple exits in the future. So we just closed on a 64 unit in Nashville, Tennessee, right in South Nashville. Great neighborhood, Berry Hill, super product. It's been kept in classic condition by the prior owner. Rents are really about 400 to 600 under market. And we have comparable properties that are actually slightly in a worse area and less desirable assets that are hitting market rates that we're coming and modeling slightly below it. So we feel very confident. We're trending off new construction. right next door that we're going to be about 66% of the rate, right next to the soccer stadium that they just built there. So there's so many different drivers, but what we're able to do is we're able to get a fixed loan. So a 5-year fixed with the local bank here. And that gives us flexibility because there's no exit penalty to get out of the loan. Right. So we have 12 months of IO, amortizes for 25 years, fixed loan. And that gives us the flexibility that, okay, if the market does continue to disrupt and go the wrong way, well, we're fixed for 5 years. So I have a lot of time to be able to do our business plan and make a good choice throughout. However, if the market turns around, interest rates sink again, drop real low, I can exit out to this to another loan, right? And then capitalize on the improved market. So if you can look at your business plan and say, okay, what's going to hurt us? What's going to help us? Right now, inflation sounds scary, but it's going to push that less people are going to be able to buy homes. More people are going to want to rent. So they're going to have to rent. So you're going to want to stay in better products. On that same front, with inflation driving, it's harder to build multifamily, which we're in deficit of. And we're going to finish about 4 million units short this decade. So it's going to be harder to build and compete with those. And every time they do, because the labor's so hard, supply chains, time to do it, it's going to cost more to do it, which is going to make my building to replace it. It's going to make my building's value increase because it's harder to replace my building. So when you look at these parallels, if you can control what you can control and set yourself in a place where you can have a lot of room to make good choices when the time comes up, that's going to be your best way to continue to carry it forward and perform in any market.
Love it. We only got a few minutes left. I got to ask some fun questions.
Sure.
And how do you pronounce your wife's name?
Pili.
Pili. I love your bio, love the website, 7-figure multifamily. Like we'll have everything in the show notes, but you and your wife have done really well to make sure you have financial freedom. And I think you have kids.
We do. Yeah. So just turned 8 over the weekend, just turned 4 and got one turning 6 next month. So yeah, we got it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
That's amazing. So 3 kids. Yeah. Can you share, you obviously did this for a reason. I think I have kids. A lot of folks that have children really want to spend time with them. And I have doctor friends that invest with me. And it's really like they're doing it in the multifamily world so that they can get 30 some units and just take a little bit of time. So how do you do it? How do you drive yourself? You get to see your kids a lot. Share some of that.
The easiest thing is just make the choice, right? There's those, it's non-negotiables, right? And those are something you can set up that you don't negotiate. But most of the time, it's a negotiation with ourselves that we have to win. So many times in life, it's that, especially when you get older, right? When you're young, your parents are waking up for school, doing this other thing, eat right, whatever it is, right? There's no one there to just set that path for us to make sure that, okay, this is something we don't negotiate with. So I get up very early. I get up 4:32 a.m. every day to do my time myself. So when my kids wake up, I'm not conflicted because I'm into this, I'm into that, I'm trying to get this, I'm trying to get my day started. I can spend time with them, commit with them, right? I can have the moment there, be with them while they're having breakfast, get them to school, right? And set them off on the right direction for their day. So it's not that, they're an afterthought. I'm trying to rush them out the door because I'm so busy myself. When I do that, I find I can create more discipline in my life that gives me more freedom. I'm sure we've all heard Jocko Willink phrase it very well, but discipline does equal freedom. If you do things in a certain pattern, it doesn't limit what you can do. It gives you more opportunity to do what you want. And so that's it. We'll work today. Today, I have gymnastics with the kids. We have soccer with the kids. We'll be out the door to go to those points because we position our day to make the most of it. We all say that we don't have enough time. We have plenty of time. We just have to look at our calendar to find where the white space is to put back what needs to get done most effectively, right? And when you can do that, you put yourself in a position to get further to where you want to go with what you want to do because we're cutting out the stuff that is negotiable that we shouldn't be doing anyway.
Love it. Burn the boats.
That's it. Yep.
And soccer family. My kid just made travel team. Like we're
so sick. It's awesome.
Militant about it. I think it helps with my business too. I'm like, I don't have the time. I need to work like twice as hard. I love what you're saying.
Yeah. Love it. That's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. Kudos to you and your family. How does someone get a hold of you? How does someone work with you or get some of the courses or things that you got?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. So YarusiHoldings.com, YARUSI Holdings.com. You can find everything about our company, what we do, the offerings we have, our multifamily mastermind, which is 7-figure multifamily podcast. All the links you can find there at the website.
Tons of value. Love it. Love it. You're a great guy. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Jason, good stuff. All right, guys, it's Real Estate Investor MBA. Check out our website, rei.mba. We have 67 interviews. Check them all out. Jason, rock on.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Thanks.